Okay. Let me see what screen am I still sharing. So I need to switch this up a bit. Okay, so I'm going to so let's take a look at our design again. So the first thing, I want to keep this design handy at the same time so that we can easily look at what's next. So it's going to be our map moving forward. Oh, did I mess this up? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to create a Twitter account. Now, I usually recommend having a separate Twitter account for development purposes so that you can separate it from your main Twitter account. So let's go ahead and create a developer account on Twitter. So I have twitter.com. Now I'm just going to show you how to create a developer account. This is not the account I want to use. Okay, let's sign out. So for this demo, I have a separate account created already. I'm just going to try to log out instead of adding an account. I just log out here and then log back in. All right, so this is a new account. There's so many access. Trying to verify this is a legitimate account, and then I'm gonna select parking meters. Come on. Is this a parking meter? I don't know. Okay, this one here. Alright. Continue. Okay, so now that we have, this is a new account, I just created it for the sake of this demo. See, no followers, no following. So next thing we're going to do is to create a developer account. So that Twitter. Once you get to this page, you should look for anywhere that says get started or apply. So once you see this, you are going to apply for a developer access. So when you click on it, there are a couple of questions. Twitter is going to ask you, what do you want to use it for? Are you using it for business, for academic reasons, or whatever? So I'm going to say I'm a student and I'm using it for learning purposes. So they're going to ask a lot of questions. Which country are you from? So just fill in all this. And once you're done completing that, Twitter is going to send an email to your email address. So you need to verify that email address, and then you have access to your developer account. So, but because I already have a developer account on Twitter, I'm not going to go through all the steps again. So I'll just switch back to my Twitter account that has developer access already. So switching back my Twitter, this is what the developer homepage looks like. So with this, you could, so once you get to this page, you know you've already been approved. So once you're approved, this is the first things you're going to see when you log into your developer account. And then what you want to do is to create an app. Okay, so we're going to click on that. Says this is weird. Let's refresh. And I have to log in again. Okay. Say this is this. Oh man. Again. All right. Okay, so you will give your app a name. So direction analyzer. Okay. So once you create this project, you're going to get this, and you're going to get your API key, you're going to get your API secret, you're going to get the bearish token. Okay, so you want to save this. I want to save all that. So let's copy this and save it to a file. Let's save it somewhere here. Also going to copy, so this is the API key copied, API secret. Also copy your API secrets as well. And then you copy the bearish token. Then you copy everything. So once you're done with that, you copy and paste it somewhere else because you're going to need that in the future steps. There. Okay. So once you're done here, you're going to ask you that your app page is ready and authentication and more. You go to this. All right. So this is where you're going to look at your app's permission. So if for any reason you couldn't find where your token and API keys are before, when you copied it, you can also always get them back here. So you just click on the app, click on keys and tokens. You're going to see them here. Consumer keys. You go to view keys, you're going to see your API key, API secret, and your BRS token. So hopefully by the time you're going to watch this video, the app might have already been deleted. So then you also want to generate your access token and your access secrets. So because this is how you authenticate against the app for the API you're going to be building. So you copy your access token. The steps are really important. So we already have our bearers token. What we are copying now is the access token and the access secrets. Again, you don't want to mess this up. Access token and access secret. So copy that and then paste it as well. So once you're done, and then you're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so for this next step here, we're going to need an Azure account. So there are two ways you could go about this. The first way is to create a free Azure account, assuming you don't have an Azure subscription. So I'm assuming most people won't have an Azure subscription, so you could just go to azure.com. This is where you can create a free Microsoft Azure account. It will give you $200 credits for 12 months, and for some popular free services. So the $200 is for 30 days, but at the end of the 30 days, you won't be able to use whatever is left. Now, but there are services that are always free, regardless of whether it's after 30 days or after 60 days, or after 1 year or whatever. So Azure has a lot of tons of free services. I really recommend you guys check it out. So if your solution is within the 25 that are always free, it means that you can have your solution on Azure for as long as you want without paying a dime. Okay, so you click on start free, then you register. It's going to require your phone number and your credit card number for verification. So, but your credit card will not be billed. Most of these accounts already have Azure on them. You just fill a form and you get a verification code on your phone. You put in the verification code, you will ask to fill your debit card details. So once you fill those details, then everything will be set up. And then you could use Azure for 30 days with a $200 credit. If the resources you're using are among the free resources, even after your 30 days has expired, you can still use those resources. Okay, so back to Azure. So you need an Azure account. Then the next thing you need is you need an Azure. You need a Databricks account. So this is assuming you don't have an Azure subscription. So for somebody that doesn't have an Azure subscription, you need to create a free Azure account, and you also need to create a Databricks account. So let's head on to Databricks.com. So Databricks has a 30-day free trial. So you could click on get started and then click on try Databricks. Pretty much the same sign up process. You just fill a couple of forms and then they give you access to Databricks for 30 days. So that is for someone that doesn't have a Databricks account and you don't have an Azure subscription. And then the last account that you need is a Power BI account. So you need an Azure account, you need a Databricks account, and you need a Power BI account. So powerbi.com. So Power BI, unlike most of this, is a little bit different. It needs you to sign up using a custom email address. You can get Power BI using your regular Gmail or Yahoo Mail because it's designed for business. So if you have your school email or your business email, whatever email it is, you can create an account on Power BI. And also for the feature we want to use, so I already have an account here, so I can't create another account, but pretty much the same process. But for the feature we need, when you create the account, you need to activate uh, Pro. So there's Power BI Pro. You need to activate Power BI Pro for 30 days. So there's a free 30 days trial for Power BI Pro. So we need a Power BI Pro account, you need a Databricks account, and you need an Azure account. So if you have these three accounts, for 30 days, you could follow along with everything I'm doing without paying a dime. Option two is if you have an Azure subscription. So let's head on to azure.com. So I already have an Azure subscription. It makes life a lot easier for me. So I'm going to use that. I have an Azure subscription in this account, so I'm going to use that. But for those that don't have, you need to create a free Azure account. You need to create a free Databricks account, and you need to create a trial Power BI Pro account. So um, when you head here to your subscription, you're going to see the different subscriptions that is available. So that is that. The next thing that you might want to look at is go to the Azure homepage. You know, when you start out on Azure, it can be scary looking at all the services. These are just a few of them. You can also customize your your view here. When you click here, you can customize how Azure displayed, how the homepage is. You could set the color depending on what you want. You could change to white or dark themes. No, this is not good for me. So whatever you want, however you want it, that's Azure for you. So I usually prefer this one. So I'm just going to leave it like this. If you want the sidebar to come out like that, so you want it to fly out, you could use this hamburger icon right here. So whatever works for you, you can customize it to the way you want. So the first thing we're going to do in Azure is to create what you call a resource group. So a resource group allows you to put your all the different resources your application is going to use to put them together, and you can manage it as a single unit. Okay, so if I'm going to deploy a mobile app, right, my mobile app is going to need a database, it's going to need a web service, it's going to need you know a lot of things. So I could just put all those things into a resource group. So that's the first thing we're going to create. So we click on resource group. So one thing, you could just click on resource group, but most of the time you might not see this here, especially if you're using a new Azure account. So you could just click on the small plus button here, and it's going to give you a list. It's going to take you to the Azure Marketplace where you see a list of all the things you can create here. The fastest way to do is just to search for resource group. that, you can click on it, and then you're going to see this. You click on create and you proceed. So, but there's so many ways again to create a research group. So let's say we are on the Azure homepage, we can just search for research groups. So here you click on it again, the same drill. When it opens, it gives you a list of all the research groups you have in your subscription, and then you can click on add. So when you click on add, it essentially brings you to where you can create a research group. So whichever way feels comfortable for you, it is totally fine. But I usually prefer going to create, then search group, then create. Okay, so still the same thing, whichever you find more comfortable. I'm going to use the subscription, and then my research group name. I'm going to give my research group a name. So let's call it election data. Okay. So you can select the region of the world you want to deploy it to. It's usually best you deploy it closest to where your customers are. So for my customers in this business case scenario, they will be the campaign team working for the political party that employed me. Okay, so they're in the United States East. So I'm going to leave it here and just click review and create, and then create. So once this is done, it almost always takes immediately. So you could click on go to research, and this is your research group. All right. So every other thing we're going to be doing will be inside the research group. So once we are done creating a research group, the next thing we want to create is a Databricks, Azure Databricks job, and Azure Databricks resource. So again, you come here, I'm going to type Azure Databricks. It pops out here, I click on it, and then immediately it shows me all the Databricks jobs that I have on this subscription. I can click on add. So when you click on add, the same way it tries to create a Databricks job. And then the next thing you're going to do is select the research group where you want this Databricks service to be located in. So we just select the last one we just created, which is election data app. Once you select that, you give your workspace a name. It's called election data. Let's see. Let's see. Tweet. So it doesn't take space or underscore. So so I want to locate this in pretty much the same region as I want to keep it in the US East as well because I'm in US East. So click review. You can look at networking, deploy Databricks Workspace in the VNet no tags. You could put tags for maybe environment name, or if this is a project. So let's say the department has this to be for the campaign department. Okay. And what is the environment? See, this is production. So you could put as many tags as you want. So the thing about tags is it allows you to analyze your data in different ways. So you could try to see all the resources that are tied to the campaign department. I want to see how much all the resources that are in the production environment. This allows you to do that. So once you're done, you click on review and create, and then you click on create. So while this is creating a Databricks service for us, it takes some time, unlike the research group. So we could pause the video and then wait for it. When it's done, we're gonna resume. Can you still see?
Yeah.
Okay. So our deployment is done. So we just click and go to resource. And go to resource, there's really nothing much we can do here except to just click on launch Workspace. It will just take you from Azure to Databricks because we are using the the Azure authentication. So it's going to sign you into Azure Databricks. And once you have that, the next thing we're going to do is to create a cluster. We create a Databricks cluster. So this is taking some time. Okay, so here we are in Databricks. So the next thing we're going to do here is to create a cluster. So once the new cluster pops up, we'll give it a name. So let's call this Suite cluster. So the same runtime 6.4 and Spark 2.4.5. So with this, the account may not have enough CPU cores to satisfy your request. Estimated available to requested 36. I'll just say 2 here. Okay, it's minimum number of workers. One. And on to what else? So let's look for a cheaper this shouldn't be a problem. Why is today so different? CPU core. So let's see. So most of this problem is happening because I already have a Databricks cluster on this account. So let's see if this will work out. If it does not work out, I might have to stop my previous Databricks cluster and then change the settings, then come back here to be sure this can allow me to create more clusters. So the reason why most of these things are happening is because a cluster takes a lot of resources, so apparently it won't allow me create a new cluster. So a cluster takes a lot of resources, and if you already have one cluster, depending on your subscription, you might find it difficult. I'm using a cheaper subscription, so Microsoft will not allow me to create use too much CPU on too many clusters. So, but if you're using a Azure if you're using Databricks outside Azure Databricks, uh, you might have a different scenario for you. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my existing cluster. Hopefully, when you're going to try this out, you won't have a lot of issues because you'll be using this directly from Databricks. So, but most of my issues are coming because I already have a cluster running. So I'm going to switch to an existing cluster so that we can progress faster. All right. Okay, so switching back to an existing cluster. So I have a cluster active. It's called PML demo, right? I was just using it to play around before this. Okay, so here we already have a cluster running, but just to show you how to create a cluster, you click on new. All right, when you click on new cluster, you give it a name. So let's just call this, just call it whatever you want. Okay, and then select the runtime. So most of the libraries we're using are built for 6.4 on Spark 2.4. Okay, once you select all this, um, if you don't already have a cluster, you shouldn't get this. But the reason I have this is because I already have a cluster active, so I can create another one. So once you have this, you just click on create cluster. Okay, and then once your cluster is created, just because I have a cluster, I won't try to do this. So once your cluster is created, the next thing you're going to do is to click on the cluster. When you click on the cluster, you're going to see all these things. But where we want to go to is libraries. So we want to install some libraries. So first, the library we're going to install is the Twitter core library. Okay, so this is the name, Twitter 4J core 4.07. You might want to install this. So once you come here, you click on install new. We're going to install from Maven, and then you could just type the search. Yes, you could just click on search packages and then select Maven Central. So you can just type Twitter 4J, Twitter 4J 4.07. So this one, you just click on select. All right. So once you select, it will install. But because I already have it installed, I'll just leave it. Then the next library you also want to install is Azure Event Hubs. Because you're going to be programming in Python, uh, you need these three packages. Okay, most of the Maven packages you can ignore them if you want, but you need these three packages in Python. So You click on install now, you click on PyPy, you type the name. So the name is Azure Event. Right, once you type the name, you click install, it will automatically install it to your cluster. You do this for Azure Event Hubs, Checkpoint, Store Blob, and you do this for Tweepy. So the Tweepy API is the API that actually does the streaming, that fetches the data from Twitter using your app credentials. So once we have all this set up, our cluster is almost ready to go. The next thing we want to do at this point is to create a notebook. All right. So you come here and click on create. So you create a notebook. So let's call this notebook demo and tweet to event hub. Right. So click on create. I'll get this nice empty notebook. Right. Now, once I'm done, the first thing I'm going to do is to import my libraries. Okay. The first set of library I want to import is the asynchronous input output library, which will allow me to send data and allow me to switch from IO task to CPU task without halting my tweet streaming. So if I'm going to do this synchronously, which means while I'm executing, I can't be fetching tweets, or while I'm fetching tweets, my CPU will be idle, waiting for all the tweets to come in. So this is the first library we are going to import is the asynchronous library to allow us, fetch tweets and also perform operations at the same time without wasting too much time. Then the next set of libraries will be the Event Hub libraries. You just import those, and then we're going to import the OS library as well, and then the JSON library. So this is what you should have. And then the next thing we are going to do is to start the main event loop. The main event loop is what is going to handle our task switching for the OS library, for the different routines that we're going to run in the course of the demo. And then the next thing we are going to do is to create the stream listener class. All right. So you just create a class here, class std out listener. This is a class that will handle the streaming job. So it's going to inherit from the stream listener here. So this class has uh, a couple of methods that we need to override. So the first of such method is the onStatus method. onStatus method self. This is status code. Status code. So, but for now, let's just pass. We're not gonna do anything with it just yet. So the next is on data. So each of these method is called when a stream of tweets is fetched. So on data means when a new tweet data comes, what do you want the program to do? So that is what on data does. For now, we don't want it to anything except maybe just print out, print it out. Okay, we could just say, and I'll just print data. Okay, and then the last one is an error. So print data and then then the last method we might want to override is called the on-error method. Okay. So nothing specific. We can just override it for now, but whenever there is an error, that method gets called. So you want to, if there's some, what the status of your listening job is. My computer is getting too slow. Okay, so I think I have my computer back and it's slow again. Hey, Steven. So once you have this set up, the next thing we want to do is we can decide to print out the status code if there's any error, or we can just comment it out or just remove it. But for this and this, we always want to have it return true so that execution can continue.